Hello everybody, I'm Jack from Manelli Studio Entertainment and I'm here to give you a new video. Today I'm starting a new video series called Batman Favorites, where I go through some of my favorite Batman comics and I recommend them and review them to you. This first episode is going to be about a Batman book that's kind of underrated and because of the creative team, not underrated. If you don't know what a creative team is, it's when a comic book writer and a comic book artist and maybe an inker and a colorist come together and they're on a story arc or a run of books. In this particular, it's going to be one graphic novel but three different stories. And that book in question is the Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale's masterpiece, Haunted Knight. So Haunted Knight is marketed nowadays. And you can still pick up this book. Maybe not this exact copy, but you can still pick up this book pretty much any comic book store or Amazon. But it's marketed as a prequel to this guy, The Long Halloween, which is, the Big Daddy, probably the third biggest Batman story when it comes to like the public. Like if you read like 5 Batman stories, you're gonna read The Dark Knight Returns, you're gonna read Batman Year One, and you're gonna read Long Halloween. The other two is probably like The Court of Owls and maybe even Hush, which is also Jeph Loeb. Yeah, this is kind of like the big one. Like this is the one that is adapted into an animated feature film, 2 of them I believe. This is taken a lot from The Dark Knight and the Batman. So this book has been mined to heck in the public's conscience. With good reason, because it's a pretty good story. I may review it someday. And this is marketed as the prequel. I don't have huge issues with that. It's not really a prequel story, because it's not setting up anything, right? It's not set up. It just was made. These are 3 books, so three special issues in one collection. And these 3 issues were printed under the Legends of the Dark Knights, which was kind of like a young Batman book, right? Series. It was that's where Batman Shaman, Gothic, Venom, it's all from the Legends of the Dark Knight. So these were 3 Halloween specials that were in that line. And so it's not really a prequel, right? It's not connected. You don't need to read this to understand this, right? And I don't like calling things a prequel when they were made prior. Prequels are usually things like, okay, this came out, and then they made a story that took place before. And that's not the case. And I know that's semantics, and some people will not agree with that. A prequel is just the story that came out first. Well, I'm sorry. A prequel is a story that came before something else, right? You wouldn't say Star Wars Episode 4 is a prequel to Star Wars Episode 5, right? No, you wouldn't. Or Lord of the Rings, right? You wouldn't say Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring is a prequel to the Twin Towers, right? No, you would not say that at all. You would say The Hobbit is. Films. The Hobbit novel is not a prequel because it was made before. So it's just the first story in the Lord of the Rings universe, and the sequels is the Lord of the Rings. Semantics, I know, but And this book is distinctly not a prequel because they mention Mr. Harvey Dent Two-Face in one of these stories, and spoiler, not really, this is the origin of Two-Face. So technically one of these stories, at least one of these stories, takes place after this. And again, you want semantics, that's super semantics, right? Technically it's not, but it is. So if you buy a new edition, it's going to be a hardcover and it's going to say Batman, The Long Halloween Prequel, Haunted Knight. It should be called Haunted Knights, but that's besides the point. So yeah, Haunted Knight is, like I said, 3 stories, and all 3 stories are Halloween based, and they are fantastic. Let's first talk about the star of the book, Mr. Tim Sale. Look at that. Look at that artwork. I believe this is homaging Neil Adams from X-Men, but I could be wrong. But yeah, look at Tim Sale, some black and white stuff. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. He is the star of the book. I have 0 issues with the art. 0 issues. And quite frankly, I have 0 issue with the story. If you don't know, Jeph Loeb, that would be the cover of the first special, was at one point like a top 5 comic book writer working. And it didn't start here. It really started around here that he became very prestigious, very important. He was only on big books. It's not like, say, like Tom King now, right, who is a huge writer working today, but he does a lot of work. Jeph Loeb was very selective. He did this, he did some Superman, and he did not a whole lot, right? But what he did was extremely influential, and quite frankly, some of it was very good. But he's kind of controversial because he kind of takes a lot from different media. And in this, I'm not well versed to know if he's taken anything, but what he does in Haunted Night is he takes the tone of a lot of different Batman material, specifically Frank Miller, which is not really a crime because everyone did it. And if you do the closest to Frank Miller, you are going to be a success, right? If you can ate Frank Miller right, you're going to be a success. And that's not really all these stories. I think it's mostly in story number 2. But yeah, what these books are kind of gothic, definitely gothic, noir tales of Batman on Halloween. And the first one, he faces actually 2 villains. The first one being Scarecrow. And again, amazing Scarecrow by Tim Sale. And the Scarecrow story is a Scarecrow story. He's out doing some Scarecrow stuff, putting toxins into the city, just a lot like Batman Begins. That's the thing. A lot of Tim Sale stuff has entered the films. And at the same time, Bruce is having this romantic, like, kinship to this woman named Julie Madison. I can't remember clearly right now. And hey, look at that. Look at that stuff. Beautiful stuff. Tom King has definitely read this book. He does this all the time in his Batman book. And I'll show you some more later on. And Julie Madison, I think that's her name, is not who she seems. And if you don't know this, if you're not well versed, Julie, that's the name of Bruce's girlfriend in the early Detective Comics. That's the Bob Kane, Bill Finger stuff. Gillian Maxwell. Gillian Maxwell, sorry. So Gillian Maxwell, I believe she's the romantic interest in early the detective stuff. I could be wrong. I'm not doing research. And she's not really, she's not really what she seems when you're reading this. She is trying to really manipulate Bruce into falling in love with her. And Scarecrow doing his Scarecrow Venom stuff isn't really helping because he's passing out, he's super tired, and he's really taking the manipulation. And that's kind of a spoiler. That's really a spoiler right there. That's probably the biggest spoilery thing you can say in this. And it's just that. It's just a hard-boiled book. And I think this has some of the best writing Jeph Loeb has ever written. Clearly, I'm not a writer or a good one. So let me read you the first page. Hopefully, future me bring it up here. In Los Angeles at this time of year, everyone with a gun fires into the air. People are killed from the falling bullets. In Cincinnati, a curfew prevents the children from trick-or-treating after dark. In Detroit, they call it Devil's Night. Buildings are torched. Fire sweeps throughout the city unchecked. But in Gotham City, on Halloween, all hell breaks loose. He calls himself Scarecrow, psychologist turned psychopath. He preys on the innocent and instills them with fear. When I chose to wear my costume, it was to prey upon criminals and instill them with fear. The irony is not lost on me. Jeph Loeb, like, you used to be so good, man. And I haven't read your current stuff, right? I haven't read Hush 2, right? Wasn't a fan of Hush 1. But I haven't read Hush 2, so I can't talk. But like, man, that was so good. Like, you were Tom King before Tom King, right? You were Tom King before Tom. You were taking stuff from Frank Miller before everybody, because then the next scene is a room full of gangsters and like Batman showing up saying, okay, your times are up. Familiar, if anyone read Year One? Yeah, it's just so good. It's a great hard-boiled story with the femme fatale. It's very on the nose. If you read Long Halloween, that's even more on the nose when it comes to hard-boiled stuff. But again, what really elevates everything in this book and all the other Jeph Loeb, Tim Sale books is Tim Sale. I gotta talk about Scarecrow. He kind of talks in this like nursery rhyme like way, and it's not really an issue. It works, but the issue really comes later on because Jeph Loeb writes all the villains that way. They all have like this nursery rhyme, riddle, rhyming scheme, referencing stories from, Alice in Wonderland to anything. I know an old woman who lives in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth and gave them no bread, and she beat them and whipped them and put them to bed. It's good. Like, I'm not criticizing. It is good. It's funny, but cheers. He does it for all the villains in this story, in this book. But yeah, the first one's good. It's called, I guess it's called, I guess it's just called All Hell Break Loose, right? And it's beautiful, beautiful stuff. Very, like, again, I see Tom King is very influenced by this stuff. I love when they do like these flashbacks. It's in black and white. That'll come back later on with that accent of color. And yeah, it's gorgeous stuff. Like, look at this paneling. Oh man, this book is worth the price by just how it looks, right? It's gorgeous. The story is good. The story is good, and it's a young Batman, and that's what people really love about these stories. And again, what films are obsessed with is like a young Batman, and this is a young Bruce Wayne who is technically trying to still find his way. And yeah, I love it. So the next story is called Madness. Oh wait, so maybe hold on. The first story is called Fears, because of course it is. Of course it is. So the next story is called Madness. Here's the cover, and guess who's the villain? Mad Hatter. And this one's really great. I don't want to keep talking about it, but there's a lot of Frank Miller stuff in here. So here's this opening panel. Very good stuff. And you have Barbara Gordon, or Babs, because for some reason James Gordon falls in love with someone named Barbara, and her last name becomes Gordon. And then he adopts, I don't know, I guess his niece. He adopts his niece, whose name is Barbara, and she becomes Barbara Gordon. So there's two Barbara Gordons. It's always been confusing. I never understood it. Never understood it. So what Jeph Loeb does is just calls her Babs. And again, this is some great stuff. Again, very reminiscent of Frank Miller. And I remember when I was reading this, I was like, oh man, that's really good. And I remember why. So let me put the glasses back on. So it starts off with the train coming and Babs is on it. And it says, Dear Diary. And then it cuts out my dad, Uncle Jim. Jim crosses them out. Really good stuff. He finally let me spend the whole day in the city by myself. And it's in cursive, just like year one Batman. Then it cuts to Jim. Well, first of all, it being on the train is very similar to year one where Jim's coming in on the train, right? So it cuts to Jim. It says, it's madness. Trying to raise one child in this city, let alone two. Agreeing to adopt Babs, what could I have been thinking? Then I see her smile, and I remember why. Which is very reminiscent to what Gordon says in Dark Knight Returns, where he is like, I see the punk, I think of Sarah, I pull the trigger, the rest is easy. It's very similar. And again, he looks very similar to the Mazzucchelli Batman. I'm sorry, Mazzucchelli Gordon. Yep, then we have the Mad Hatter stuff. And again, more beautiful. Like, I love that train stuff right there. Or I love those paneling stuff where it's just, it's different scenes. It's different. It's movement, but without the panels. I love that stuff. Then Tom King did this a lot. And again, this is a crazy Mad Hatter, right? The crazy, crazy Mad Hatter. Take off your hat. I keep them to sell. I have none of my own. I'm a hatter. Like, again, like, just like Scarecrow, he speaks in these, like, nursery rhymes, and obviously he's crazy for Alice in Wonderland. He sees the Red Queen here, and, yeah, he gets over Batman, and then this is a great scene right here, where it's this argument between Gordon and Babs, and even though she just saw Batman flying around with, I think she sees it. Maybe she didn't. Yeah, she definitely saw it. She sees Batman fighting Mad Hatter. She still is like, I want to go out on Halloween. And there's this big, big argument, and yeah, like the first one's very noir, very hard-boiled. This is less that, because again, just like year one, Batman's not really the main character of this one. And again, some great stuff, and they do some very tragic stuff with Bruce in this, where they have this thing where Bruce's mother Martha reads him Alice in Wonderland, and they go out that night to what? To see Zorro, the mark of Zorro. And guess what little Brucey gives to his mother before going out? The pearls. I love that stuff, keep adding to the tragedy, right? They're going out for him. They give his mother the pearls. They get robbed for the pearls. It gives a lot of that pathos, like, I will stop what happened to me. Maybe I should, tell parents not to go out and walk down Crime Alley. So Babs go out. I'm not going to try to do it, but like, I think this is probably the best one, right? I do love that first story, but I do love, like, because it's more of an ensemble cast, and you have the character development and character revelations with Bruce. You got the character development with Gordon, with Babs, and again, more Frank Miller coded stuff. You have these fake mutants, trick or treat, smell my feet, give us something good to eat. Like, again, even the low-level criminals talk like they're nursery rhymes. But I, to be fair, I think they're Mad Hatter men. So, but yeah, it just becomes a traditional Batman story, more year one imagery, because we already know Jeph Loeb loves year one because of this guy right here. But this really shows it, right? This is like, it's not just using like characters like Carmine Falcone and stuff like that. No, it's like using imagery, using style from Dark Knight Returns, from year one. You know, even taking stuff from year two with Thompson, with the psychiatrist doctor from Crime Alley. You know, that's year two stuff right there, not just year one. He's using it all. And again, good Gordon moment. Gordon saves Babs. Great stuff. And then again, you know, it just ends. And again, they beat him, and Gordon and his daughter, you know, she calls him Dad, have a great moment, and a moment that brought a tear to my eye. During a rainy night, Bruce is in his Beauty and the Beast style library, and he brings out Alice in Wonderland and starts to read it. It's a very beautiful ending. Brought a tear to my eye when I reread it, because, you know, a lot of Batman fiction talks about the father, talk about Thomas, right? But Martha is a big part of it. Again, another reason why I think Tom King read this, because he did that same exact thing in I Am Bane. So, not talking bad about Tom King. Someone else can do that. I'm just saying similarities. I just like picking up the similarities. And so the last story, the last special, you know, you can see, but not really. It's called Ghosts, and this is a Christmas Carol. And not a lot to say about it. You know, Penguin's the bad guy, and again, this is the influence of the film, because the Penguin really wasn't like this prior to the film. He was just like a weird looking guy. Now he's like a mutant. And I guess the crutch of this is also like Bruce learning that he can't do everything by himself. And he, as Bruce Wayne or as Batman, and oh man, look at that. Look at that. So he is, you know, like at the Christmas Carol, he's saw by his father, who tells him he's gonna die. He's gonna die one day. And he's three ghosts. Poison Ivy is the the past. And he's like, oh, my father was great, but no, he was actually late all the time back home. You know, he's dressing up like Zorro. He's refusing to go out trick-or-treating because he's waiting for his dad. Showing how he saved Lucius Fox when they were younger in Europe. And they were going to make Lucius wanted to work with him. Like before, like now people are like, oh, Lucius Fox, the genius. But before he was just a very good accountant, right? And a very good person and a personal friend of Bruce Wayne. Not an elderly figure, but a contemporary person. Him and Lucius are equals. And then, you know, the present, which is the Joker. Again, like how people are just afraid of Bruce Wayne. And then he sees he's show that one day he's gonna die. And then, again, like a great ending is like, you know, he teams up with Lucius Fox to start like Wayne Enterprise, and he's doing trick-or-treating. Like he's giving the candy out. It's all right. It's all right. It's not great. It's not great, but it's good. It's fun. Artwork's breathtaking. Again, like Tim Sale, rest in peace, you legend. I almost don't want to read the last Long Halloween story in principle based off that, but I probably will just read it. I got the DC digital app. But anyway, yeah, this is a great comic. I love it. I hope you can pick it up and read it. I know I just spoiled a lot of it. I love Tim Sale. And again, Jeph Loeb. You used to be a monster, man. And I hope you don't watch this and you hear that and you're like, I think I'm dogging you, but I think you have some genuinely great writing in here with some genuinely great, like if you did full script, if this wasn't just Marvel method, this has some really great paneling layouts. And yeah, look at this stuff. Like, this is cinema. Like, cinema right there. And man, like Jeph Loeb is the luckiest man in comics next to Stan Lee, because Tim Sale is like anyone, if you write any story for Tim Sale, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. That being said, I have never read anything. Well, that's not true. I read some of his Grendel stuff. He did some Grendel. I read that. That was good, though. But yeah, Batman Favorites, Episode 1, Haunted Nights. And I think this is like the black sheep of the whole Jeph Loeb, Tim Sale universe. Maybe that's Catwoman, When in Rome. But yeah, these guys go on to do great things. Like I said, I don't need to talk much about this anymore. They did a sequel to that, Dark Victory, and then also DC Superman for all seasons, which Mr. James Gunn promotes a lot, and maybe I'll do a video on this someday. But they do great work. They did some work for Marvel with the color books, Hulk Gray, Spider-Man Blue, Daredevil Yellow, and Captain America White. But if you go to the comic book store, it will not say Captain America White. It just says Captain America on it. I saw that today. but yeah, I know I put glasses. I don't know if you saw that happen, but yeah, I wear glasses, and I was reading a little from here. And again, I highly recommend this book. You know, Tim Sale's art is worth it alone, but these stories are good. It's kind of an anthology that's all Halloween centric, like most of these things are Halloween centric, and you don't really like. I don't like saying this is a prequel to Long Halloween, but you don't get Long Halloween without Haunted Nights, with the 3 Legend of the Dark Knight specials. You don't get it. You don't get it because, you know, this sets up the Halloween motif that will lead to the Long Halloween. So if you've read this and you like this, you should read this, because this definitely has, I'm going to say it. This definitely has some stuff that is better than this. But that's a story for another day. So thank you for watching. My name is Jack from Manelli Studio Entertainment. I talk about films, I talk about comic books, clearly, and I talk about anime, movies, manga, whatever geeky things I can think of. And thank you for watching. I highly appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, please watch some of my other videos. I did a Frank Miller video that spotlighted his career, talked about most of his work. And again, I talked about his work here today, so if you like this stuff, you'll probably like that stuff. And subscribe. Subscribe. I'm going to do some more Batman favorites after this. Maybe I'll do a Batman favorites on Long Halloween. Maybe I'll do not that. I don't know. But I do have some other comic book content on the pipeline, especially if you are an MCU fan or a DC fan. Probably a lot more of that stuff. And comment down below what you think of Haunted Night. If you are a fan of this book, let me know. And like the video. And remember, read more comics.